This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation.
Time for school.
Hey, School Success Makers. Welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater, joined by a new friend out of the great state of Missouri, Andrea Loy, who's the head of school of Christus Classical School. And they're doing some really cool things. They're in Carthage, Missouri. And I got connected with her sometime last year in 2025. And we have been in communication and saying we need to get on a podcast and talk about all the things they're doing in this brand new school and all the things they're learning. And they've done some really cool things. We're going to jump into all those things in just a little bit. But before I do that, I, of course, always pass it off to our guests to introduce themselves. So, Andrea, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. So here's what I'm going to do to start. I ask everybody the same question beforehand. If I was to visit you in Carthage, Missouri, which I've never been to that specific city before, but I do love Missouri. I love like the Ozark area and everything. What would you say, Mitchell? You got to eat this and do this to experience Carthage, Missouri. What would that be?
Okay. This may be a little bit hypocritical because I haven't tried this, but everyone says that you have to go to Whistler's Hamburger Stop. And it's essentially a tiny shed that sells hamburgers that's been there for 50 or 60 years, and everybody loves their hamburgers. So you have to eat there.
Okay.
And then I suppose if you wanted to see something kind of grand about Carthage, you would look to the downtown square, where we have one of the most beautiful courthouses, built in a more classical style with a dome at the top and just really beautiful design on the square.
Okay. All right. I looked up this burger place because you got me intrigued now. I love that you suggested a place you've never eaten at before. So I got to ask, why don't you eat there? Vegetarian? Don't like it? What?
I really want to, actually. I just have never made it over.
Okay. Man, well, it looks good, and the reviews would speak for themselves. I see a 4.7 star rating and 799 reviews as I'm looking at it today. So they must make a good burger.
Yeah, and the unique thing about them is that they only make burgers. If you go there and you want a drink or some chips, they have like a shelf that you can pick not homemade drinks and chips off of, but they only cook hamburgers because that is their specialty.
And I respect when people do that because I always make fun of Burger King because I feel like Burger King doesn't have an identity right now. This is my own personal opinion here because I'm like, one time they came out with like hot dogs and I think they had tacos for a second. I'm like, what are you guys doing? You're Burger King. Like own what you have here, you know? And so
talk about
I
mission
love
drift,
that.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. And actually, funny enough, I mentioned that because I just looked it up yesterday because I never think of Burger King. Like I don't ever, when I think of a place to eat, I don't think of Burger King, and I don't love Burger King, but every once in a while I'm like, a Whopper. I do like a good Whopper, but I looked it up. I was like, they got to be struggling, and they technically are still growing year over year with growth, adding locations. They're doing really well internationally instead of the United States. But it talked about they know that they are not top of mind anymore because it's typically McDonald's, Chick-fil-A. If you were to talk like main people, like, oh, let's go McDonald's. So I thought that was interesting. They at least know it themselves, and they have like a campaign they're trying to do to bring it back and build their identity back. And it's just interesting. I looked it up just yesterday because I'm like, man, they always look sketchy. They don't look clean. They have mission drift. I think it was about you said it perfectly for Burger King. All right. Well, now I know what to do. If I'm ever visiting that area, I know I need to go to the courthouse and just visit the courthouse, and then get a burger. And that sounds like a good time. So it's good. All right. Now, as we jump into the episode, give me a little bit of background on you and your school. I know you guys are brand new into this. And then, of course, I got some questions for you as we jump into today's episode.
Yeah, well, my family is not new to classical education. So when my oldest daughter was entering kindergarten, we had the privilege of going to a church who had started a little classical Christian school. And this was quite a while ago because she's 21 now. So we entered into that situation thinking this will be good. This will help me because my husband had really wanted me to homeschool and I didn't feel exactly competent or equipped to do that yet. So we started our journey into classical education day one, first child. And then we have had a total of 5 children. And then all of them have, everywhere we have moved, have had the privilege of being a part of a classical Christian school in some way. And then I've had the privilege of working there and just seeing the benefits of a classical education from start to finish, and just the benefit of being able to observe how different schools participate in the great tradition of classical education. So that's kind of a little short blurb. I will say, though, what brought us to starting the school here in Carthage is that my husband took a job here to be closer to family. And so I naturally, once he took that job, started looking for another school. So that was what we did. We go to classical Christian schools. And there was not one. And I thought, how in the world could God be sending our family to a place that doesn't have a classical Christian school? So my boss at the time looked at me and said, well, obviously, God is calling you to do that in that area. And in my head, I said, no, that cannot possibly be right. That would be really difficult, and I would not know what I am doing. And so I went home, spoke to my husband, and then he said, of course, I believe his exact phrase was, duh. You should definitely do that. It's totally obvious that God has prepared you to do this because you have been working in classical Christian schools for 15 years and you have a passion for this, for how it should be done, for how it should be done well. So anyways, because those 2 godly Christian men spoke into my life and encouraged me to do this, here I am 3 years later.
And are you still kicking and screaming and being like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And here you are, you're having to do it. What is that like?
No, I had a lot of insecurities and doubts that I could accomplish this, but obviously over and over again, God has shown me that he's really the one accomplishing this task through my very feeble hands, and he is going to do what he is going to do. So he has given me great friends and mentors. When I have a question, I can go to them and seek wisdom. I've also spent the last 2 years getting my degree in a master's of classical schools leadership for classical schools is what the degree title was. And so he's just kind of been equipping me along the way. And now I feel like once the school started in September, I had this sense of this is what God has called me to do with my life. This is peace, knowing that I'm walking in the path that he wrote out for me, which is
Amen.
a really joyful thing. Every day is fun. Every day is good. There are difficulties, but I love what I do.
Good. And this is year 1, right, of the school being open, correct?
This is our first year. Yes.
So tell me, obviously, as we were recording this, we're in March. I think this will probably air sometime, most likely in the summer-ish time.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so it's not over yet. Obviously, you're probably about to hit spring break or whatever. How has this first year been so far for you guys?
It's been wonderful in many ways. One thing I've really enjoyed is just kind of when you're dreaming and you're thinking about something in your head and God gives you a vision for it, you never really know what that's going to look like. And so it's it's sort of unfolding before my eyes, if that makes sense. It's not that I haven't been intentional to plan events or curriculum or pick out teachers or what have you, but it's so delightful to see the kids doing things together that I had dreamed in my mind of doing with them, right? Like we did the Lessons and Carols program for Christmas, and it was just so amazing to see that come together in real life. Dream turns into reality, and you get to be participating in something that God gave you a vision to do. It's just really fulfilling. The other thing that I really enjoyed about this year is getting to know each student individually. We have a really small, tiny school. We only have 7 students our first year. And so getting to know each student and seeing their strengths and weaknesses and coming alongside them and encouraging them to be bold, take risks, and grow in certain areas has been really fulfilling to me.
Hey, school success makers, Mitchell here. I just want to take a really quick break from the show to give a big, huge shout out to the Herzog Foundation. I absolutely love the Herzog Foundation. I've been friends and partners with them for a couple years now, but we're bringing it to a whole new level. And I'm excited to share that our very own School Success podcast is now featured on the Herzog Foundation Podcast Network. The Herzog Foundation is a powerhouse of resources designed to support schools like yours, from free training events through the Herzog Foundation Institute to their incredible online news publication, The Lion, and of course, our new podcast, Home. They have everything you need to stay informed and inspired. And if you're dreaming of starting your own Christian school or co-op, don't miss their online course, Schoolbox. It's a fantastic resource to help you get started on the right foot. At School Success, we're proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation to bring you these valuable tools and insights. So visit herzogfoundation.com to explore all they have to offer. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on these amazing opportunities for growth and success. And I love all the people over there, and I know you guys will too. So please go check them out, and you won't be disappointed. Now, back to the show. If you could rewind, because I know you're already we're in March right now, but if you've obviously learned a lot, but there's things you're going, oh man, I wish I had known that before I started this, or I wish I could go back and change this, because there might be people listening that are either also in the middle of a startup or looking at potentially doing a startup one day. What would be something, again, talking to yourself, I guess, for this would be like, oh man, if I could go back, I would have done this?
I would say about halfway through the year, my main teacher came to me, who I feel like is doing a really good job. Just, I need to say that first. And he said, I need some training. I'm struggling in this area and in that area. And what do you think I should do? How can you help me? And so, I got online and I looked up the Society of Classical Learning classes that were coming up that he could take at night, or other resources for him, like Classical U is a great one. And I connected him to those classes, and that helped, right? But if I had thought, hey, you know what we should do this summer before we start school is do this training before the school year to make him feel a little more confident, that's one of the things I would have done. Just kind of look at my teachers, sit down with them, talk with them about their strengths and weaknesses, and then support them with some of the training that they felt they needed. I mean, because essentially that's what I did to start the school. I thought, okay, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, this is the experience I have and don't have. And so making the choice to go to Gordon and get my master's in school leadership was to fill in that void of administrative experience that I felt I needed.
Good. Man, I like that, because I'm thinking, how many times do we just go, oh, I hired this person, this is their job, they'll be good, we'll just let it happen, when we obviously as leaders need to be equipping them and making sure they're set up for success as much as possible. And obviously there's only so much we can do. It's obviously it's on them then to grow as well. But that's a good one to say, like, what resources are out there, how can I better equip them for success. Obviously, as you enter into your first summer of break, going, all right, how else can we now equip to get ready for year 2? What are some things that you guys kind of look back over the year? What did we learn? What did we struggle in that we can fix to make sure year 2 is better? Because we're going to fix these things, and every year just improves. So I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I know, as you mentioned to me when we had our first call about this, about there were some things you did that I thought were really unique and thought out when it came to starting your school. You weren't just like, hey, we're starting this school, and hey, we're just start telling people about it, and then we're going to open it in a couple months. Like you obviously you planned this out, and you did some things when it comes to community that I thought were unique. What were some of those things you did before you started your school?
So, a big part of education is paideia, right? And paideia involves culture. So you're enculturating your kids, you're enculturating your families that go to your school. You're forming a new culture when you make a school or when you make a new organization. So it was really important to me from the beginning to make a culture. And I was moving to an area where I really didn't know a lot of people. So we moved here from Tennessee and had never lived here previously. I just had family here. So I kept asking myself, how do I come up with a community? How do I create a culture? And that's when I began to think about the types of things that I want to do with my school, the types of events we want to have, the types of atmosphere that we want to create and invite people into. So we started having communitas events, and those were just things people do in the classical liberal arts tradition. And I just wanted to invite people into that, like, and say, hey, this is what we're going to do with our school. Do you want to come try it out and see if this is something that you want to be a part of? We want to have dances. We want to have feasts. We want to celebrate poetry. We want to read great books together and talk about them. We're going to teach Latin at our school. We're going to have a lunch where we learn a little bit about Latin. And just, bringing people together over fellowship and showing them this is the type of culture that we want to create was the way that I could think of in my mind to begin creating a community.
And how long were you doing that before you actually started the school?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we began meeting as a kind of like a founding board around July of 2023. And that was kind of the first brainstorming we did, was like, how do we get the word out? How do we meet people? How do we invite people into what we're doing? And so I believe in the summer of 2023 is when we started thinking about these things and planning them. And then because we really didn't feel like we could start yet in, oh goodness, I need to get my dates right. I moved here in May of 24. So in May of 24, we started holding events. So we knew that we would need a year to have a monthly event every month to cultivate this crowd of people and let them know what we were going to be doing. So we had one a month for 12 months. And then we thought, okay, now we've got some people that know what we're doing. They're excited about it. And they were very successful. We had a Reformation ball. This is now our second Reformation ball that we've had. It was just so much fun. And people were able to come and see the richness that develops when you have friends and family who are wanting to have something fun to do together that's appropriate but fun, right? Like we have this wider secular culture going on today that as Christians, we kind of want to run against it, right? But if you are familiar with the classical tradition, the phrase plundering the Egyptians will come up often, right? And so the Egyptians feasted and they worshiped gods, but we want to do it in a way that ushers in Christ into our fellowship, right? So we want to feast and we want to dance and we want to worship the Lord with these people. And so showing them some of these things in a way that honors Christ, but provides this absolutely fantastic, engaging time together is necessary so that they can taste and see what's good about our community.
Good. I love it. So you did a ball. So you had a dance.
We had a ball.
You're about to have your second one. What is that? What is that like? They're dressing up in old school, times dresses. What are we doing here? How's it work?
What we did was we actually said you can dress up as a reformer. You could dress up as Martin Luther. You could dress up as his wife, whatever you want to do. You could dress up as a monk. Some people dressed up and some people didn't. You can wear a formal dress. You cannot. We're trying to make it like accessible to all people. So some people showed up wearing like a Martin Luther monk costume, and some people were just in jeans and a t-shirt, and that's okay. But one of the things that was really fun about the ball is that we taught everyone how to dance. So there was no like, I always tell people like gyrating and shaking about. Like we actually gave people dance lessons. So we learned how to do the Virginia reel. We learned how to do all these different fun group dances. So we had a dance instructor that would call the dances. If you've ever been to maybe a square dancing type of a situation, you know how they call out. So that's kind of what we did. And then we paused in the middle of the ball, and we had a reader's theater presentation where our students recited a poem about Martin Luther and the Reformation. So we were able to learn a little bit about what the Reformation is and why we celebrate it. And then we had like a photo booth that looked like the doors of Wittenberg that you could take your picture in front of. The doors of Wittenberg are where Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the wall. And so we gave you a Reese's if you came and nailed your theses to the doors. It's just, it's just really important to have fun in everything that you do involving children when you're trying to help them learn. We also ate a diet of worms. So when Martin Luther was coming before I don't know what you call it, if it was like a court or if it was more like a committee, but he was coming before them and they were accusing him of all these things that he had done wrong. And that was in Worms, Germany, right? So to celebrate, we all had desserts that were basically dirt and worms, pudding and Oreos and little gummy worms. And that was fun, just everybody loves a good theme, right? So.
And what I love about this too is it's memorable, because if I know how I learn, I'm a hands-on learner, I'm very visual. And so if I was just to go to this dance and it's like, oh, it's a Reformation ball, Reformation, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, and you just like go and you leave and there's nothing to it. Yeah. But if you do the worms and you have like, hey, we're all dressing up and we're going to have the person come up and read a poem, and the Reese's and like all that stuff, like, oh, like that'll stick. Like even you telling me this today, like I'm going to tell my wife, like, oh, this is actually really cool. I heard a school that's did this, because it's memorable and it sticks. And I think so often, this is schools, but also outside of schools, we just do things like, oh, we're supposed to do this, or this is how we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. And we don't think about the way of like making it memorable or making it fun for the kids. For us specifically in the Slater household, we homeschool. And so my wife, there's all these things she's doing to just make it interactive for our 6-year-old who's in kindergarten. Mm-hmm. And like, they're doing planets right now. And he's like making these things that had like a shaving cream thing that he did. And then they had for the moon, all the phases of the moon, they did Oreos, and he had to cut off the right amount of white to make the different phases of the moon. All these things that he's like, they're locked in. He's loving it. And instead of you going, reading a book and go, there's the phases of the moon, son. Good. Congratulations. Yep. Next thing, he wouldn't care. He wouldn't like that as much. So I love this, Andrea. It's really cool that you're taking the time to do some of these things that are outside the box, a little bit creative. I would love to hear about the Latin lunches too. You kind of mentioned it, like what is a Latin lunch, and what do you guys do with those?
Well, what you're referring to and what we're talking about is called embodied learning. So we were made to learn in a way that engages all of our senses, right? So the dancing, the feasting, the Oreos, the shaving cream, it's all about embodying what you're learning so that you're going to retain it in a way that God created you to retain information. I mean, that's how he made us. So for Latin lunches, we decided that we want to talk about why we teach Latin. But that would be boring if we just stood up and said, here are the top 10 reasons why you should learn Latin and why we teach it. Have a good day. See you later. So So we needed to embody that learning for these people so that when they come, they don't feel like, oh, that's too much. I don't think I want to get into that. And that's just an extra amount of work that is not valuable. So we thought about some of the ways to bring in this embodied learning. So what we did was we looked up typical foods that Romans would eat at just a regular lunch, right? Like not a feast or not a celebration, but just like what did Romans eat every day? And Romans spoke Latin for a considerable period of time. So, so we served just typical Roman food. We had homemade bread. One of the moms in our community makes delicious sourdough bread. So she brought that, and then we got rotisserie chickens because apparently Romans ate a lot of roasted meats. And then we had a lot of fruit. And so we just made up plates, and then our students served everyone who came. And then everyone was greeted at the door with a toga and a laurel wreath because when in Rome, right? So everybody was wearing a costume, which is very much an embodied experience, right? You're becoming Roman. And then as we sat around our tables, we had round tables, and we had a person from our founding board at each table so that they could facilitate a fun game using flashcards to teach the people at their table what that food would be in Latin, right? So what is, oh, I see you're eating bread. And she would hand her the flashcard with the Latin word for bread on it. And so it was just a way to engage people and say, hey, you know what? These things are valuable and important. And now they're listening about why they're valuable and important because they've become a part of the experience.
Hey, I just want to take a really quick break from the podcast to highlight one of our amazing partners and sponsors, ClassReach. If you're a new school administrator or founder and are struggling to keep up with all the hassles of planting a new school, like collecting tuition, communicating with parents, or handling student data, then you need ClassReach. ClassReach is the all-in-one software that helps with everything from admissions and tuition to classroom management and parent communications. Sign up for a free consultation with one of their school specialists and see how ClassReach can help your school grow today. You guys can check them out online, classreach.com. They are a kingdom-minded company, and I love their leadership team there. I've become friends with a lot of them. They truly are a great company. I support them, and I love them, and you guys will love them too. Check them out at classreach.com. Now, back to the show. That's good. Is this something you want to do, like when we're talking about the balls, the Latin lunches, the other community things you were doing? Is this something you guys are seeing like, hey, we're going to do this once a year going forward? All these things are like a once a year event, or are you adding in different ones? Because I know you mentioned you did one thing a month initially. Mm-hmm. What's what do you guys think this is going to look like for your school going forward?
So once school started, the once a month Communitas events were impossible for me to keep up with because I'm the head of school and I teach 2 classes, and then I'm also the development person right now because we can't afford an extra advancement person full time. And so there were all these things and roles that I needed to fulfill in these first few founding years because we just can't afford a full staff. So there are a few hills that we're dying on. Of course, we're always going to have the Reformation Ball. It's a tradition now. And so we've had 2, and it's just been like a great turnout both times. So we definitely want to continue that tradition. I'm trying to think what else we've done. We started doing the lessons and carols performance, which is a telling of the gospel that's really famous for our Christmas party. And it was first performed, I believe, in 1914 at Cambridge College and is performed every Christmas Eve, every year from now on. So we kind of entered into that tradition that many classical schools do with their student body every Christmas. I think as we move forward as a school, we'll develop more traditions that we love that are just part of who we are and we can't imagine not doing them. But we need a few more people in our community to really be able to do something every month. I would say that's the hard part of starting a school, is that you have to do so many different things to keep it going, and you don't have the manpower yet because you're too tiny.
Man, we gotta just get, just get $1 million, Andrea.
Yeah.
If you get $1 million, it'd be problem solved. So you can figure all this out. Jeez.
Exactly.
Well,
I'll get my advancement officer on that right now.
Perfect. See, I'm glad I could solve a problem today for you. This is great. I do have no doubt you guys are going to continue to grow. You guys are going to continue to have success there, and I love that you've brought this school to that area that didn't have one. I love that God called you to it, and you could have obviously said, no way, I'm not doing that. But you stepped into these shoes and you opened the school, and now think about the 7 lives that are being touched and changed right now that would not have had that same experience if you guys hadn't done that. So it's really cool to see this come to fruition. So I'm excited for you guys to continue to grow and do more events and do more community building to help more students and more families find you guys there in Missouri. I think it's really cool. I hope you're having fun. I hope you're not getting burned out. I know you got to finish strong. You got 2 more months or so, for summer vacation. But I love what you guys are doing. So I'd love to kind of wrap up with this, Andrea. Is obviously, you've only been this first year, but you have so much to share. You have so much you can pour into people. But if you were to give one more piece of advice for the school leaders listening, what would your one piece of advice be?
Yeah, without a doubt, it would be know who you are. Know who you are and stay in that lane. Having a mission statement and some core values from the very beginning are going to aid you in that process, of course, but you can't be everything to everyone. And even if you're doing something new or progressive, you still have to pick your identity and stay in that. You can't build something strong if there's no foundation for that, right? So decide who you are and stick with it.
That's good. I love it. Andrea, thank you obviously for taking time out of your day and talking to us on the podcast and teaching me and teaching our listeners. Obviously, of course, wishing you guys nothing but the best as you continue to grow and educate this next generation that's coming behind us, and wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Well, another huge shout out and a thank you to our guests for taking time and being on the podcast today. I love the people that I get to interview in this podcast. And as always, I'm hoping you guys are able to take at least one thing away from today's episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Before you guys go, I do want to make sure you are aware of our 3 free resources available here at School Success. And the first one is, of course, the podcast that you're listening to right now. We are dropping weekly episodes every single Monday morning. We want to make sure you guys aren't missing out. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you haven't left a 5-star review, we would love a 5-star review as well. The second one is on our website, schoolsuccessmakers.com. In the top right-hand corner is a button, School Success Report. You just click that and sign up for that. We send it directly to your inbox every single week. It's full of different articles our team has either found or written to help you, the school leader, be more successful. And last but not least is our free Facebook community called School Success Makers. It's an awesome place. I'm personally in there. I'd love to see you in there as well. Get some good community around you, ask questions, and just have some fun. So make sure you are joining our free Facebook community. We'd love to see you in there. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. We'll be back here next week with another awesome guest as usual on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.